over, waiting for my next flight. I get back in the Bay Area around 7:45, and I'm just gonna really talk about this fight and just break down some things. I'm probably gonna make some people mad today, but ask me, do I give a damn? And I know they gonna get mad and flag the video, cause sometimes certain fans of certain boxers they can't stand when you give an honest perspective or you don't say what they want you to say. But looking at the fight for the second time, I saw some things which I saw in the first, and the first time I saw it, being there as a live spectator and analyzing it, because I watch things closely. But when I watched the fight, I saw some things and Errol Spence that Terrence Crawford could exploit. Now, I know the Errol Spence then crawled up from under their rocks now, and now they didn't got a little bit more confident due to the fact that Errol Spence got a stoppage, and now Errol Spence finally said Terrence Crawford's name after, being questioned about his reluctancy to call out Terrence Crawford and say he wants this fight. But there was pressure on Errol Spence to call out Terrence Crawford. Now, am I giving him credit for calling out Terrence Crawford? Somewhat, a little bit, but at the same time, I think it was kind of weak because he could have been called out Terrence Crawford. Because there was always, well, we'll see if the fight will happen and all this kind of stuff. Now, and don't come on here saying, well, Errol Spence kept his word. No, he didn't. If you come on here with that, it's going to be nasty. Because I'm not trying to hear that today. No, he didn't keep his word. He could have been made this fight. But hopefully, we're one step closer. But I will say this much. Now, I know what the Errol Spence brigade ain't going to tell you. I watched that fight. Errol Spence got hurt multiple times in that fight. And he spit out his mouthpiece, which is, a trick. He Diego Corrales. Because Diego Corrales in that fight versus Castillo, he was hurt really bad in that fight, and he kept spitting out his mouthpiece to buy time. Errol Spence was hurt in that fight. And all this stuff about, well, Ugas tried to hit him when he was defenseless. Well, what do they tell you? Protect yourself at all times. So like I said, I know the Errol Spence fans and got confident now because he got the stoppage. But let's just face the fact with Ugas. Ugas is solid. But we know Ugas falls. The thing with Ugas falls in that category with all Cuban fighters, or at least most of them. I don't want to disrespect Cuban fighters. I don't want to put a label on them, but from what you've seen throughout the history of Cuban fighters, they just don't have killer instincts. They don't go for the kill. They don't try to go for the stoppage. And I was talking to CJ about it. He had a good analysis. He said that Cuban fighters don't know how to make adjustments to the pros, where they still think that fighting in a amateur style translates to them being good professional fighters. Well, it depends, because if you look at Lara, same thing with him. He don't go for the kill. When he was a main event, people was walking out of his fights because he wasn't doing that. And you seen what happened with Guillermo Rigondeaux in his last couple of fights. So it's just like, Now, as far as the referee, I felt like he was stopping momentum for both fighters at times. Yeah, Cubans don't know how to prepare for the pro level for the most part. I know they was talking about that Olympian that came out around the same time, that Cuban guy that was around the same time Muhammad Ali was around, but he never went professional. But you just see this in Cuban fighters. And I'm going to tell you now, if Terrence Crawford gets Errol Spence in trouble, he's going to finish him. Now, I know people think that Errol Spence is going to blow through Terrence Crawford. Well, you sadly mistaken. Terrence Crawford ain't no Ugas. He the number one pound-for-pound fighter for you know what I'm saying, for a reason. He's one of the best fighters out there for a reason. So like I said before, if you think Errol Spence is gonna go in there and throw 3 punches and the fight gonna be over, you are sadly mistaken. Now I know the Spence fans gonna flag my videos because that's what they like to do. But I'm still gonna talk. I'm still gonna say what need to be said. I mean, Errol Spence had his moments where he looked good. Because at the end of the day, when Errol Spence started to get his punch placement in place, then, you know what I'm saying, it was lights out for Ugas. Because Ugas, like I said before, he don't take no chances. When you fight a guy like Errol Spence, you got to be willing to take chances. Bud is going to be willing to take chances. What's going to make the fight intriguing with Errol Spence and Bud is both men going to be hurt in the fight. Bud is going to get hurt by Errol Spence eventually, and Spence is going to get hurt by Bud eventually. Basically, it's going to come down to who recovers first. I think what's going to decide Spence versus Terrence Crawford is who has the most will. Who's going to make the best adjustments in that fight. Because that's what it's going to come down to. Adjustments is going to be crucial to Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. But like I said before, this ain't the first time that I've seen Errol Spence get hurt in a fight. And he was shaking for a minute, but he got his legs under him. And, you know, he managed to fight on and get the stoppage. Well, I don't know if I agree with that because Terrence Crawford gets really hot later in the fight. So that's another thing. This is why I keep saying that the fight with Errol Spence versus Bud probably is going to come down to the last 4 rounds. Because I've seen Bud start off kind of slow to calculate, see what the dude is doing, and then Bud like starts to get going like really like after the 4th round. He made adjustments. He made adjustments to shine. And like I said before, Errol Spence is going to win rounds versus Terrence Crawford. That's a fact. It's not going to be a one-sided fight either way. That's what I keep trying to tell people. It's not going to be a one-sided fight where Errol Spence dominates Terrence Crawford from beginning to end, and it's not going to be a fight where Terrence Crawford dominates Spence. It's going to be a competitive fight. And I think what happens in between the 9th and the 12th round is going to decide the fight. And I think whoever lands something meaningful or whoever starts to impose their will like after the 6th round. So that's how I see that fight. That's how I see that fight going down. But it's going to be an intriguing fight. The problem is with Errol Spence, Bud can throw punches at any time, and he can catch you with something that you don't see. And then I've seen some mistakes Errol Spence was making a couple of times where he was lunging and overextending himself. See, the thing is, Bud could turn Errol Spence, and he could like turn that punch into a hook and land on Errol Spence, and he could do some serious damage to Errol Spence. So, like I said before, it's going to be a hell of a fight. But I'm just laughing at the fact that now Errol Spence's fans, then like I said, they came out of nowhere. Now all of a sudden they confident now. Now all of a sudden they confident. But like I said with Ugas, I thought Ugas had what it takes to get the upset. But then after the 4th round, when you saw what type of fight he was fighting, I'm like, Ugas is in there to win rounds. He's trying to outpoint Errol Spence. Sometimes you can't outpoint an opponent. Sometimes you got to go in there and fight. And I don't mean by necessarily getting the stoppage. I mean by going in there, bruising it out, brawling, having your moments where you have to slug with the dude, exchange with the dude, and he sat up there just waiting to counter, pot shot, arrow Spence, reset, come back in, and do the same. Instead of, for the most part, trying to initiate offense. So, I'm just saying. I'm not gonna say it was fool's gold to think that Ugas actually had a chance. He hurt Errol Spence. He hurt Errol Spence several times to the body. He hurt Errol Spence several times up top. Errol Spence was hurt about 5 or 6 times in that fight. So we know Errol Spence can be hurt. And like I said, the thing is, I think Bud may catch Errol Spence with something he don't see coming. And you got to understand with Bud, when Bud get hurt, which makes him dangerous but vulnerable, Bud is going to get up there and he going to start slugging it out. Yeah, people don't want to admit the truth that the Errol Spence brigade don't want to admit the truth that, they were sitting up there like, I don't want to get too explicit. They were sitting up there on his sack. But as a dude that was there watching the fight, because y'all got to understand, remember, and I appreciate you guys who come on my channel, know that I cover boxing and I go to these fights. I really watch. Just like I can't wait for Shakur Stevenson versus Valdez. That's gonna be a hell of a fight. Because Valdez gonna have a couple of moments against Shakur Stevenson, but I just think Shakur Stevenson gonna whoa everybody with this fight. Yeah, I just think Bud is one of them dudes. He goes Tasmanian devil when he gets hurt. And I just think that when Bud get caught, I just think he gonna turn into the Tasmanian devil. And I think and he gonna start unloading combinations on Errol Spence. And I think that's gonna be, see, you gotta understand, Sean Porter, the reason why sometimes it's hard to land certain punches on Sean Porter because of his head movement and how Sean is rough and rugged. See, Errol Spence don't move his head down the line when he coming forward. So like I said, that's going to create opportunity for Terrence Crawford. That's going to create a lot of opportunity for Terrence Crawford when he start throwing them combinations. You just going to wonder, is Errol Spence going to have time to try to reset? Because I think one of them is going to land, and I think they're going to do some damage. Well, that's the thing about Terrence Crawford. He don't like to let you get in the rhythm, because we all know Terrence Crawford will initiate offense. If he feel like, okay, I'm letting this fight get away from me, or I'm kind of getting in the danger zone, okay, well, it's time to go off. And you seen what he started doing to Sean Porter. He started timing Sean Porter and catching Sean Porter instead of trying to throw those combinations at times. Now, they was working at times, but then he was like, okay, I could be a 1-2 punch dude with Sean Porter. And then you seen towards the end of the fight, that's what happened. He started to catch Sean Porter. He caught him. He dropped him. Then Sean went down again. And, more than likely he was finna go down the third time, because when Bud see blood, he coming for you. And I talked to Kenny, and shout out to Kenny Porter, and Kenny admitted to me. He said, I saw something that I didn't like with Sean. He said, I pulled the trigger, because Kenny felt that Sean was finna seriously get hurt by Bud. So Kenny pulled the trigger and he stopped the fight. He said he didn't like what he was seeing in Sean, because he knew that Bud was finna really hurt him. So he said, hey, I saw something I didn't like. He said, and I don't feel bad about it. You know what Vortex I'm gonna do a separate video about that. Because that calls for a separate video. Listen, I want y'all to be careful about something that may happen with some of the fanagers. The fanagers. The people that like to try to act like they work for Errol Spence. I want you to go listen to that interview with Stephen Espinosa. And man, shout out to Stephen Espinosa. I ain't gonna lie, I got a lot of love for Stephen Espinosa, because for those who've been following my channel for a while, y'all know Stephen Espinosa always gives town business interviews. And Stephen Espinosa was dead tired, and he took the time out to talk to me. And I told Stephen Espinosa, I said, hey man, I only need like 2 or 3 minutes. And Stephen Espinosa was like, okay, well, come on. He's always giving me interviews. Same thing with David Benavides, as you can see. Always gives town business interviews. So, but I saw something in the interview when I got a chance to review it that you guys need to be careful of. Just be careful. Listen to that interview with Stephen Espinosa. He brought up Daniel Kinahan, and he brought up, the possible fight. I really hope it don't get to the point to where they try to lowball Terrence Crawford. As I said before, Terrence Crawford deserves a 50-50 split. And if I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm not taking no less than 50%. Now, what's going to happen is, watch these videos. You gonna and mark my words, I'm not gonna say no names, but you're gonna start seeing videos about how big of a star Errol Spence is and all this kind of stuff. But they had I think they had 39,000 people there in an arena that holds 100,000 people. But the thing is, Canelo got like 70,000 people up at Cowboy Stadium, and the whole top section was closed off. And then plus they sold a lot of tickets at the door, at the gate. I mean, them tickets was $45, $35. Shit, you should come see somebody if they got $35 tickets. So you gotta watch out for the caps that's gonna be coming. You're gonna have typical fanboys saying, "Oh well, look, man, look." If I'm Terrence Crawford, it is no way in hell I'm fighting in Dallas. Which, by the way, I'm gonna do a separate video talking about where Spence versus Crawford should be. We all know the perfect place for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, and I'm gonna say it right here and right now. All my subs from Atlanta, y'all need to push for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford to be held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That fight need to be held in Atlanta. Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford should be in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. If they could put Jake Paul in that damn stadium, which nobody came to see, you mean to tell me you can't get 40, 50,000 people up at Mercedes? Tell me that I'm lying. Aubrey, tell me that I'm lying, that fight should be in Atlanta. That fight should be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atlanta is the perfect place for that fight. It shouldn't be no problem with the PBC getting that fight at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think Arthur Blank will let them have that fight there. And besides, one thing about Mercedes-Benz Stadium is real easy to get to. It's real easy to get to. It's in a good location. It's in downtown, and the State Farm Arena is right across the street from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Now the Atlanta Braves Stadium is somewhere in the Outies. Nah, I don't think Spence versus Crawford should be my first choice for that fight would be the ATL. My second choice would be Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium, and then my third choice would be Madison Square Garden. It's either Atlanta, Las Vegas, or New York, Madison Square Garden. Yeah, Raider Stadium. Well, I'm telling all my people from the A, this is y'all. This is y'all chance. Email the Atlanta Braves. Excuse me, the Atlanta Falcons organization. The reason why I know Atlanta could. The reason why I know Atlanta could hold that fight, they had the damn Olympics there. Atlanta only got like roughly around 400 and some thousand people. But I'm just saying the area. I'm just saying the area. I'm talking about fight week for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford to be lit. So like I said before, Atlanta is the perfect place for Spence versus Crawford. It should be held there. It shouldn't be in no damn Dallas. If I'm Terrence Crawford and Spence team try to say you got to fight Dallas, I'd tell him, man, I'd be like, go to hell. Ain't no way. I don't have to fight Dallas. But if they try to pull that, with Terrence Crawford, I'd be like, you guys really don't want the fight. Well, Atlanta, that's about as neutral as you can get. That's about as neutral as you could get. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care. I mean, credential or no credential, I'm coming to that fight. If the fight get made, I'm going to that fight. I don't give a damn where the fight is held. If it's in Atlanta, I'll be there. I'll be there regardless. I'll definitely be there. Well, that's why I'm saying Atlanta is perfect for that fight because, like I said, it's neutral territory. And I think what'll happen is, yeah, he fights in New York too. Bud has had like about 3 fights at Madison Square Garden. But Madison Square Garden would be neutral enough. Because Errol Spence, keep in mind, Errol Spence was born in New York. And he moved to DeSoto, Dallas area. Well, like I said before, I'm about to hit up the Falcons organization. Y'all need to call them and say that fight need to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Not the State Farm Arena, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm positive that they could get 40, 50,000 people in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They market that fight right. They advertise it right. They got to go on a press tour. They got to go on like a 5-city press tour to promote that fight. And I promise you. And then they got to keep the tickets reasonable. At the end of the day, the tickets should be reasonable. Because, when you fight in a football stadium, you can't expect to pay $1,000 to sit in a football stadium for a boxing match. Because you talking about a square circle, you talking about viewing and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, you want the tickets to be reasonable. But yeah. Nah, they're not going to do. Spence versus Crawford is not going to do Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao numbers. But for the fight now at this moment, this era of boxing, it would be the biggest fight since Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hagler. Or Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hearns 1. It'll be big. Now, what type of pay-per-view numbers would it do? I think it would do some decent numbers. I think people would be intrigued to see this fight. I think even some of the casuals that follow Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, they would come out and support this fight because this is the fight that people want to see. I think this fight would do maybe 1 million pay-per-views. I think it would do well. I think it would do I think it would do more than 200,000. I think it'll be. I think it would do very well. But yeah, getting back to the overall fight itself, just watch out for some tricks. Cause like I say, just watch out for all the videos that's gonna get made by the managers telling Bud he need to take 70-30 and all this kind of stuff, and if he don't take 70-30, he don't really want the fight because he ain't as popular. Man, just stop it. Just just stop it. I'm cutting that off at the path because I know some people listening and saying, damn, he already, you know what I'm saying? He already cut. Yeah, I'm cutting your water off. So just watch out for those type of videos. They'll start popping up probably today. They'll start popping up today, tomorrow. You know, I ain't saying these dudes' names because I don't give nobody no free advertisement. But you know, it's gonna be the usual suspects. It's gonna be the usual suspects that's gonna be sitting up there saying, "Oh well, it's on Terrence Crawford now." Nah, ain't nothing on Terrence Crawford. It's on. It's not on. It's not on Terrence Crawford. It's on both these men to be fair when it comes to negotiations. Ain't no way in hell if I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm taking no 70-30, no 80-20, none of that stuff. Now everybody talking about, well, Spence side is talking about, well, I'm not going to negotiate through the media, but you the one that was putting that stuff out there, or you was telling other people to say that's what we want Terrence Crawford to take. So you were actually the one putting that out there. So, I mean, for real, you the one that was sitting up doing that stuff. I mean, you know, we just got to keep it a buck. You know, just got to buck. That's just real talk. I don't want to hear none of this 70-30. I don't want to hear none of this. I don't want to hear none of this 80-20. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. I don't want to hear no 60-40. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. Because if that's the case, then if you want to do 60-40, then you could be like, well, you only sold out 40% of Cowboy Stadium. Because Cowboy Stadium holds 100,000 people. So you allegedly sold 40,000 tickets. And I will say allegedly because, you know, I know some people, some diehard Errol Spence fanatics is watching this video and they gonna get mad and they gonna flag this video, which I'm gonna win the appeal anyway. But, you know, but go ahead, have your little fun. As you can see, I ain't used no profanity, but watch this video not get monetized because somebody flagging it right now. But I'm just keeping it a buck. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. I don't want to hear no 80-20. I don't want to hear no 70-30. I don't want to hear no 60-40. You know, you the number one pound per pound. You the consensus number one pound per pound best fighter on the planet, not named Canelo Alvarez. Appreciate the donation. So, with that being said, you got to come with a fair. So you got to be fair. So I don't want to hear this stuff about. I don't want to hear no lowball offer. But that's the only thing that I'm worried about with Showtime. I just don't want them. Appreciate the donation, boxing fan. I just don't want to hear none of this stuff about we don't have enough money to pay Terrence Crawford. This fight is gonna sell itself. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that too, Vortex. I'm gonna talk about that too. All those videos are coming pretty soon. I'm gonna talk about all that. You know, all those videos are coming soon. So, like I said before, they gotta be reasonable. But when I saw the interview with Stephen Yosa, I was like, okay. They talking about they didn't had talks with Terrence Crawford. Okay, why not bring Terrence Crawford over there? Now they saying that they don't want Daniel Kinahan involved. Okay, that's understandable because of his reputation. But that shouldn't be the Achilles heel for this fight not getting made. And I don't want to hear nothing about no money. I'm just telling you guys. Just watch out for the fanagers. Oh, appreciate the donation. Appreciate the donation. But yeah, um, last night was cool. But like I said, I didn't like how the referee was inserting himself though. But he was inserting himself a lot. He had early Russell Mora issues. Now Russell Mora was one of the worst referees I had ever saw in my life. But Russell Mora, now that he didn't got back to getting these championship caliber fights, he's gotten a little bit better. Because Russell Mora was terrible. But, you know, he was terrible. But like I said, breaking down the fight, Spence was hurt a lot in that fight. A lot. He was hurt a lot. And Ugas, when he had Errol Spence, you know, hurt, he should have went over there and tried to, like, see could he do some damage. And then a lot of people were saying, hey, man, the referee, he's stopping the fight. He giving Spence time to recover. Then they said he was giving Ugas more time to recover. But I knew they was going to stop the fight. I knew they was going to stop the fight, just like I knew with Gamboa. Gamboa is done. And I hate to say that about Gamboa. I think Gamboa really should consider, like, calling it a career. Yeah, I would put Keith Thurman on the undercard. I would put Keith Thurman on the undercard, El Chivo. I don't have no problem with that. Well, it was a knockdown. It was a knockdown because the ropes held him up. That was a legitimate knockdown. All those videos are coming later on. I'm putting video. Hey, the same way. Look, I'm an honest dude, man. I'm an honest dude. The same way Bud got dropped by the Mean Machine, and it didn't count. Errol Spence, that should have been a knockdown for Ugas. Just like Jake Paul got put on his ass by Woodley in that first fight, and they didn't count it. But that was a knockdown. Now, I know the Errol Spence Brigade gonna be mad when I put this video out, but I'm gonna put the damn video out. That was a knockdown. So, all those videos is coming. But anyway, got to charge the battery, but I'll be back in like an hour.